Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to share a word with you, and either you're going to get this word or you're not. And for those who don't instantly pick up on what this word, the potential this word has for you, you may think it's kind of woo-woo, or maybe it's kind of evil. You're not really sure. Shamanism. Shamanism. It can transform your life spiritually. And as you've heard, I'm sure body, mind, spirit are very important in terms of piloting your life forward. We're going to dig into that word today. And she's somebody that practices that and so much more in helping people who are stressed, feeling burned out, just not even moving their life forward. Sara Regester joins us on the program once again as our professional of the year. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really happy to be here and having this conversation we're about to dive into.
Likewise, because that word in itself, I feel that a lot of us really don't know what it means, or we're guarded. It sounds, if you don't know, like evil. Like what is that? Shamanism? Is that a religion? Is that a belief? Is that witchcraft? By the way, in the men's group I'm in, I'm the shaman. So I get it now, but it took a while for me to figure it out. How do you describe it? How do you define shamanism?
Well, it's important to know that medicine, men and women, shaman, women, since the beginning of time, in the earliest cultures on the planet, that those early indigenous everywhere had this basic understanding of how the as above and so below and the world around them all works. They didn't have all the distraction that we have. And so they could kind of see how energy was, created, and they could understand their connection and interreliability to the world around them, meaning like the rocks and stones, plants, animals, spirit, etc. And so they really have a huge body of wisdom in these ancient cultures of understanding how to be connected to things is actually how we stay more balanced within ourselves when we're more connected to life outside ourselves. And that's probably what people kind of are challenged with today is, how do I stay connected? How do I stay plugged into life, to my relationships, to my meaning and purpose, to my passion and lust for what I care about? And so when I talk about shamanism, it really is a lineage that I come from, very ancient, of using ceremony and the worlds of Grandmother Earth combined with teachings and wisdom that really encode a new way of your body, mind, and spirit to transform. And so
Lots of
you can go to
questions.
you can go to classes and workshops and read books, and that's all very important. But when you put in alchemy and ceremony, it's like self-growth and development on steroids. It just kicks it up faster and kind of a higher expanded vibration. So it's a
Do you
little,
feel back in the day, I'm talking way back, that the shaman in a culture, in a community, was thought upon to be the wise one, where they study this a little deeper? And are a lot of the teachings back then, the principles, still apply today, even centuries later?
they still apply today. And the lineage that I come from, if they had a new set of teachings, and they always studied things on wheels in a circular way of thinking, they tested that wheel for 100 years, and if it still stood true, then they said, okay, this is knowledge that we can share, this is knowledge that works.
Wow.
And yeah, and so they were very discerning in how they kind of shared their teachings among each other, and most importantly, who was going to carry them out to the people, the wise ones. How are they going to go out and share that wisdom to everyone else, that they're traveling out to? And
So,
so that's what's like, it's oral. There was no books.
right,
Yeah.
right. Well, same thing with medicine. You had
Yeah.
the medicine man, medicine woman. Where did it come
Mhm.
from? Plants. That was the pharmacy back then.
Mhm.
So that was I guess, part of the healing, but this was also the healing too. Uh, the principles we talk about, many of them, the foundations are still there. Can you share some of them with us? Just I know that, we can run deep here, but just some of the principles along the way to have a better understanding of what it is.
Yeah, that's such a big question. I'm deciding where to dive in.
Oh, I know. That's why I
The
said
most,
just basics.
yeah, the most basic principle is how important it is to have male-female balance in everything. It happens in nature, it happens quite naturally in the world around us. But as human beings, we have free will, which is our gift so that we could evolve and grow is to make good choices and not so good choices. And that part of our journey as we're evolving is to find within ourselves more male female balance so we can be both receptive, creating ideas, coming up with that birthing of that spirit child, whatever that
Hmm.
project or person is. But we also need that masculine side to help us like execute the action. And, the principle of male female are very opposite, but they are very cohesive when they come together. You're going to create something much bigger when you have the ability to be receptive, creative, and active, conceptive, like both sides married together. And so
Are
that's part of the healing is people finding that within themselves.
are you referring to, on its basic form, somebody's got an idea, very creative. I got an idea. It's a great idea. All right. Well, it's going to die on the vine unless you act on it. So now we're balancing maybe the feminine and the masculine energy to get it all done.
Yes. And if you just are receptive, you're going to swirl around in your ideas and have this amazing imagination and come up with all this creativity. But if you're not able to actually make it happen in your life, to actualize it, that's the part that is going to help you kind of manifest what it is that you actually want to bring forward. And
Hmm.
it's the same thing. Um, this could be a bigger conversation. We always have like this little snippet of time. But for the masculine principle, it's very efficient. And if you could think of like the early cultures, the masculine was about get the deer, get the deer, get the deer, like focus, 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 A to B, be efficient, get the target. Where the feminine principle is more like look at the big picture. What are the resources? Oh, there's a daisy. Oh, there's a healing herb. Oh, here's some vegetable roots for dinner. It's like, so when you put the two together, you're going to create something much more bigger, more expansive, more balanced when you're able to bring both forward versus just action might not always think of all the consequences or the options or, seeing that bigger interconnection picture, I would say.
Do you find that many of us are off balance when it comes to our masculine feminine ratio?
We are,
Mm.
and that's part of what's healing in the culture right now. It's going to happen in humanity whether we're conscious of it or not. It's one of the knocks on humanity that says, "Hey, everyone, we need to find more balance in this." And it's
Really?
it's quite a ripple. I mean, when you think of the transgender and the past couple years, the polarizing, and that's the shakeup until we can figure out it's the principle. It's not necessarily specifically the sex you're born into, but how are you living that principle in your life? And I would just say that in the sense that within alchemy or ceremony, you're always bringing the male and the female marriages together. It's like grandmother earth, grandfather son, coming together. Earth mother, earth father, and so that part of bringing the balance, even the flowers and the bees and the like in nature, how things pollinate and germinate and all that is how that interconnection is supporting each other to thrive. And so that's balance.
Is shamanism also getting in touch with oneself, really connecting with oneself?
It is connecting with oneself in terms of how am I connected to the world around me. Yes, interconnection, having that introspection, intuition, having self-awareness, more conscious awareness, all those things come as any of us might choose a meditation path, a spiritual path, where having this awakening. But where shamanism comes from the ancient cultures is teaching us how to find the interconnection, inner reliability with the worlds around us. And so that would be the plant world, the mineral world, the animal world, the spirit world. Like we're all interconnected. There's no separation. But as humans, we separate, we get distracted, we get stressed out, we get hopeless. All these things that we create are because the lower self is kind of running the show with the inner dialogue going. And, we can't always hear the connection of the as above or spirit or a higher self guiding us unless we're able to really clear out the distraction and make an effort to stay, to tune in. And most commonly, when people get depressed and despondent and hopeless, it's because that individual hasn't found their way to connect back into life, back into people, back into what gives you meaning and purpose, that passion and lust. And that's one of the reasons that burnout is so dangerous, because it's where you lose your passion and lust for life, where you're feeling hopeless and depleted because you don't know how to get yourself back into the stream again of moving forward, making connection, having your life happen.
Wow. It's often thought of when somebody says, I'm burned out, that they're just working a lot of hours. There's no time for anything. But from what I'm hearing from you, it's different, Sarah. They could be working all those hours, but if they found their purpose and they were connected with the world around them, it wouldn't really matter so much. It would be labor of love, if you will, just joyful. Yeah, I worked a lot. I had to cut back a little bit. I'm having a good time though.
Mm-hmm. It's really a principle of where are you putting your energy? Like, how are you filling your tank is kind of pretty simple. But when people get so busy, it's usually because they're burning through their physical energy by overworking, overgiving, perhaps not having those boundaries or bottom lines. But truly, if you deplete your energy bank, it's like running your checking account dry, and then you start
Mhm.
drawing from your savings account. Well, when you're taking energy from your savings account, that's really dangerous to the person because you're actually taking away from your creative essence, your soul force, that secret sauce of what you bring to life when you create things, how you have that special individual touch on things. That's the part, the creative passion and imagination. That's what you deplete when you go to burnout. As you've run through your physical stores, it's like running through your glucose storage and you're running
Mhm.
out of the glycogen. And I don't know if any athletes have done that. If your glycogen goes out when you're like on a race or a long endurance thing, you just can't even move a foot further. I mean, it's like done. And so that's where people don't know, they don't understand the importance. It's actually the little things you prioritize in your life that give you joy, that fill your tank. And so if you like doing crossword puzzles or you love spending time hiking in nature, or there's something you love crafting, like these things are important because this is how we're filling up our checking account and how we can stay busy without depletion is that balance of the joy factor and heart's desire versus just the output that feels like a
I
should.
thank you for saying that. And I know exactly what you're talking about because at this point, I feel that I'm not being creative enough because my energy is being sucked in other directions. And 2 weekends in a row, just to illustrate, the energy tank. 2 weekends in a row, did a lot. Was around a lot of people. It was fun, but there was a lot going on. Monday, Tuesday, I felt depleted. I felt like I was getting a cold. That was last weekend, the weekend before. Then last weekend, same thing. I was busy. I did this, I did that. And I'm like, son of a gun, here we are. Monday, I'm like shot. I don't know what's going on. I think I'm getting a cold. Maybe it's allergies. I don't know. No, it wasn't. I took 2 days of working, but then being done with the day, shutting down, meditating, just lying in bed, just like enjoying quiet, bounce right back better than ever. So
Mhm.
that was my game changing moment of realizing that gotta be careful with what we have, the energy within us. Because if you're giving it, you need to see, you got to save some for yourself, right?
Yeah, and it's when people overextend their energy output is when burnout happens.
Yeah.
And it is a matter of prioritizing me time, prioritizing the values that we each have individually as a high priority and not putting others first all the time. And that can be really tricky when you're a working person, family person, raising kids, like aging parents. We still like that's the practice is don't forget me. I'm the feet on the street having this human being
Mm,
experience here. And that self-care is more than just going to the dentist and taking your vitamins.
yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And when you've depleted your energy doing those things that we have to do, whatever it might be, like I've got a table in the other room. I'm in a studio that arrived and we just use it as a prop. And I'm just gonna put it together. My friend's busy. I'm working on a project with him. Honestly, I'm looking at that like, I don't really want to do that. Now, if I wasn't busy and didn't give up a lot of energy, be like, yeah, no problem. Open that box up. Let's crank this thing out and get it done. Those little things become laborious or more
Hmm.
so when you don't have those energy stores.
Yes, and here's the coaching hack.
Oh, bring it on.
I'm all about the coaching hacks, right? So if there is something that's important to do that you're really not feeling the juice to do it,
Yeah.
if you can fold in other things to make it fun and pleasurable, it
Yes.
actually, that second attention can help you do it with less energy output and more efficiency on your energy. And so that might be playing music or doing it with a friend or having a
Yep.
reward. There's ways to do that. And that's what people don't realize is you got to fold in the fun pleasure factor for the things that aren't quite so alluring.
Um, when I clean on the weekend, I play music, and my thank you to me, but I have to eat anyway, is I make a smoothie, like a really cool one with fruits and everything. And I was like, all right, I'm going to take a pause and I'm going to get back to cleaning. But yes, putting on music, changing it up, finding the little things that make it more joyful. Any more hacks? Love them.
I'm all about the hacks.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah. Well, it's just about, and I would say another one might be visually tracking things that sometimes you start out thinking, I'm going to do this regularly and I'm going to puzzle or I'm going to do this thing I love doing 3 times a week for 30 minutes sort of thing. And what happens is we get busy. We think, oh, it'll happen tomorrow. Maybe next week I'll start. And so I would say one of the key things, if someone is really trying to pick up a new practice or a new habit of how they are bringing more joy or fun factor in their life, it's important to track it visually, that you can see your progress
Hmm.
and say, oh, wow, I've kept this new habit going now for 3 weeks. I made a commitment to myself for 3 months. I'm going to keep going because I've started. And so visual tracking of any kind of longer term can be really helpful for consistency.
When you say visual tracking, do you mean just some way that makes sense within your goal to keep track of it? Whatever, a logbook or whatever it is, but some
Yeah,
kind of progress report.
yes. And it's infinite, the number of ways that people track it. And
Sure.
so if you're the artsy craftsy person, you want to make a little paper with, stickers on it for your refrigerator. The other person maybe wants an app, on their watch, or someone might have an Excel spreadsheet, or someone else has a sticky note with a check mark on it. It's like, or they log it in their phone. Like but it's like what works for you that you'll remember and be consistent in the tracking.
As a person that is practicing shamanism, and we're talking about way back in the day, do you ever do this? Do you think to yourself, it would be, you're grateful for now, but it would be kind of cool to live in a time where there weren't so many distractions, where they did focus on these kinds of things? You ever think that?
I don't
Hmm.
because it's how do you create that for yourself in the here and now? You could take it one extreme. Many people choose to live off grid or out of town or in a setting where there's, no cellular connection. And so it's not that difficult to live with less distraction, if you don't have a TV. So I think it's how can you create that for your life now? versus what was then. But I will say that those ancient cultures, doesn't matter what continent you're talking about, like the wisdom that came from those early cultures that just had the simple life they did is amazing, and it's sustained through the ages. Doesn't matter, if you're
Right?
studying Buddhism or shamanism or Taoism, they're ancient, ancient.
Isn't it mind blowing, amazing?
Hmm.
Just, it's hard to fathom that majority of the things Ayurvedic, and all of
Hmm.
that from back then is still being practiced now. Even energy healing, Reiki, what pick any modality. They
Hmm.
all came from back then. And here we are, yes, with lots of technology and even on the medical side, all of that. But the foundational part of what we're talking about is still here. So, and I love your answer. I love your answer because I do think about going back to a quieter time. Like, my affinity and maybe, lived a past life there, like mid 1800s. They had photography, so you can see what life was like. And, they had some technology. It just seems simpler, but I'm sure they had their challenges then too. But what you said, and I'm sure others will remember, make now then.
Hmm.
Yeah. Be intentional.
Yeah. Every June, I go off grid for a 10-day ceremony.
Yeah.
And, there's a little bit of solar power. But, when you're in nature for 10 days straight, it's amazing how expanded you become and how attuned your senses just flare on. And, the mind is just quiet and just things just drop in. Like it's amazing when,
Wow.
if we have the opportunity to put ourselves kind of out of the day to day busyness with technology and kind of in a setting where you just really have to be with the nature around you.
Well, we forget the impact that it can have. And it's as simple as go walk in the woods, take a walk in the woods. That's it. That's all you need to do. Step one, there's a reason that it's been said for as long as I can remember, got to get back to nature. Yes,
Mhm.
because it grounds you. And what did they do? Hundreds, thousands of years ago. Take a walk in the woods. That's where they lived. That's where it all was. Thank you for the perspective on this.
Yeah, and here's another perspective because if you don't have time or bandwidth to get to the woods, go find a tree in your yard or in the park nearby. And I give my clients tree ceremonies that you can connect with one tree or four trees and have an amazing ceremony that connects you to all trees. It it gives you the experience of connection as if you were in the forest or nature right where you are in town. Sometimes that's all we have time for is a quick little connection in the four directions with a tree. And then it just brings that balance, brings clarity, helps you kind of let go of whatever that trigger energy was that was
Yeah.
kind of distracting and
And guess
irritating.
what? Touch one tree, you've touched them all.
Hmm.
Why? Because their roots go into the ground and the ground is everywhere. And I do have one tree that I pull up and see first thing when I get to my place. And I kind of have an appreciation for that tree. There's been times where it's like, I need to touch that tree. It's almost like a calling. Yesterday, I bought a plant for it, and I hang a plant on the tree. It's almost ornamental, but I appreciate you, so here you
Hmm.
go. There's something there that many of us don't realize.
Well, in trees, the luminosity of a tree, the aura of a tree, is very similar to our human aura. And so in my tradition, we often say that we're a human flowering tree in the sense that the more we can balance our energy and balance our aura by how we're living our life and being healthy, etc., that, there is that connection with trees. It's actually quite natural.
Mm.
That there's an
Uh,
affinity.
I know we went a little woo-woo today,
I know.
more than usual, but good in an impactful way. And I
Yeah.
believe it was very easy to understand and apply to our lives, especially if you're feeling that burnout, a lot of stress. Try practicing some of the things that we're talking about here today. Sarah, best way to reach you. How do we do that?
Well, I would say, if people wanted to learn more about how I coach using shamanism, my book, Courage to Shine, How to Feel Confident Outside Your Comfort Zone, is on Audible and Amazon, Apple Books. or my website, directionsforwellness.com. You can email me at Sara, Directions for Wellness. I'm happy to connect with any of your people out there.
And by the way, just want to share with everybody, along with what you're doing here, don't you have a medical background?
Well, yes, I'm an integrative health coach, but I also was a registered nurse in the clinical hospital work for 110 years, I think.
Back in the 1850s. That to me, that speaks volumes because you get the physiological side of it and also the psychological, the shamanistic side of it, like a 360 approach. As always, thank you for being here today. Really appreciate it.
That was a great conversation.
And if you think I'm kidding, I am going to be hugging and touching that tree when I get home. I'm not even kidding. No,
It's important.
My
It's
word
self-care.
is, it is, but and you know what? It's a cherry tree. So all those white blossoms looks like snow
Oh,
falling off of it right now. Just pretty. I appreciate it.
beautiful.
And I
Yes.
appreciate you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Steve.
We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.